Oh, there's a lot.
Hello, welcome back to a second chance. Hey, before we went on this break in September, we had to leave you with an awesome show. So we have three caregivers here who are side by side with the person that they took care of. All of these are in transplant space. But first, we just want to introduce. My name is Philip Jones.
And my name is Tafaro Cook, two-time kidney transplant recipient and founder of Kidney Care Coaches, where we coach people with stage 3 to stage 5 kidney disease. You or anybody else you know who needs coaching with their kidney disease, hit us up at kidneycarecoaches.com.
Awesome. Appreciate seeing you again, Mr. Cook. We're going to get straight into it. You know how we do. We don't waste some time getting stories. So the first story we'll hear from is Phyllis Hill.
Hi, my name is Phyllis Hill. I'm Fred's wife, and I was his caregiver. To talk about our story, Fred was diagnosed with polycystic kidney disease in, I think it was 2000. It was 2000. In the year of 2000, his sister had polycystic kidney disease, and so she called everyone and said, "Y'all need to get checked. You need to get checked." It was it's a very dominant disease in his family. So he was diagnosed, and then he went on dialysis in 2012. And so for Fred, I know I have 10 minutes, but I don't do a lot of talking. Fred is the talker. But on Fred's behalf, he's very independent. And so as his caregiver, I was there. We did the classes. We did the training for the dialysis because he did peritoneal at first. And then right before his transplant, I think the last 3 months he had to go on hemo because he had to have a hernia repaired. But he started out on peritoneal. And so we did the classes and everything. And then he signed up for the transplant list. Right. But he's very independent. So as far as like the machine and all that, he did everything himself. I had to learn how to do it. But like I said, he was very independent.
I didn't do the shot.
He wouldn't give himself a shot. I had to do that. That's the story all in itself. Because when the nurse told me to jab it in, I thought he literally meant to take that needle and jab him in his stomach. He had low iron. He had low iron, so I had to give him was it heparin?
No, it wasn't heparin. It was
Epogen.
Say it again.
Epogen.
Yes,
that's what it was. That's what
so
it was.
I had to give him
that's what it was.
The shot because he was too scared to give it to himself. But the nurse said to jab it in, so I jabbed it in, and he screamed, and that was hilarious.
Philip, she stabbed me, man. She stabbed me on my sick bed. That's what it was. She stabbed me.
But he's always been outgoing. He's always been outgoing in the gym and just life. He's always been life. So it was scary. It was scary at first for me. It was scary at first, but just standing, on God's word when God said that it wasn't gonna be good, but it was gonna work for his good. That did it for me. So, but it was tough at first.
Well, how was my attitude? Was my attitude good or bad? Was it sad?
His attitude, he was sad at first. I think you were sad at first.
Was I stubborn with any?
He's always been stubborn. I don't know why he's asking me. He's stubborn. He is stubborn.
Yeah.
He's stubborn, but he was a good patient, though. You're a good patient. Yeah, you're a good patient.
I did my best. I tried. Okay. Here we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there any question, anything else I'm supposed to say?
Yes, I have some questions, Fred.
Okay.
Could got some questions.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask some questions. Phyllis, I just want to say congratulations to both of you guys, especially going through for what you guys went through and everything. But what was your first thoughts when you heard that, your life partner had this challenge with his kidneys and was going to have to start dialysis?
I was real nervous. One thing that I was nervous. I was a little scared, but because when the nurse said, we went into the doctor's office that day, and she looked at Fred and she said, "You are sick as snot." That was what she said to him, that he should be in the hospital, that his organs should have already started to fail him. That's how his levels were at that time. But he was still working. He was still, so it was like, oh my gosh. So it was a shock because, we knew he had the kidney disease, but when it came to, you need to be on dialysis, and you need to be on dialysis right now, because we even went to,
I didn't have symptoms.
Yeah, he didn't have any symptoms. He was a little tired, but still working. You think that's normal, but his the second opinion was the doctor. I went to my doctor, which is our family doctor, and he had taken Fred's blood pressure. Did his blood work like a week before I went, and his yearly. And when we went there, when I went by myself, the doctor said he needs to be on dialysis right now. And so that was like our second opinion. But for me, I was scared and I was a little nervous at first.
Wow, that's big. How did life change for the family? Seeing the man of the house go through this and everything. So how did life kind of change?
Well, he couldn't work after that because he couldn't do, the job that he had at that time was no lifting and things like that. And so he was at home, which that part was good. But he couldn't, he's just so active. And at first he couldn't, be active like that, like with football and everything that, we would do, going to the park and just, just everyday things. He couldn't do those things at first. So that was different, but it was good having him at home all the time more because he worked all the time. So that was good.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And you said you were scared, but how did you see the future going to be, with him going through this? Because you have to understand, I'm very familiar with dialysis, and sometimes it feels like you're in the middle of the ocean just treading water, and like there's not an end in sight. So what was your thought process on going into the future? Like, even though we're all hoping for a transplant and things like that, but what was your thoughts of that going towards the future?
It was, to me, I felt like I never thought of death. Death never crossed my mind, if that makes sense. It never crossed my mind. And I haven't really dealt with my family members that have had dialysis. I wasn't close to them, so I didn't know any of the issues that they had gone through or anything like that. But it was just, I was just nervous. I was just, I didn't know what to expect. We learned the process of it. That's all I knew about it.
Right. I know his nutrition had to change, and so you pretty much had to be up on that. What was that kind of change like, from going to a renal diet when you're on dialysis and things?
The only thing that changed for him was the salt, because he was pretty, he was healthy. I mean, even the doctor, our doctor said, I thought he was the healthy one. And I'm like, so what are you trying to say to me? So he was, he was healthy. So the only thing was the salt. And then like now, and even when he got his transplant, at first they were like, well, you can't eat this, and this, and you need to eat healthy. But his phosphorus was low. And so then it was like 2 days later, no, eat all the bad. So he has been, so his diet has just been a little unusual now, because still now they want him to eat bad to keep his phosphorus up. So it wasn't a big change as far as like my cooking or anything like that, because he was already pretty much doing
Salt.
Yeah, it was just the salt.
Did you ever feel by yourself though? I never asked you, did you ever feel by yourself when I was going through this?
I didn't feel by my,
because you got Haven, you know what I'm saying, raising Haven, and I don't know.
No.
I'm sorry, I'm asking questions. Man, I'm sorry. This is our first interview together,
right?
You know, it's just, you know, to me, it's always me talking. I really haven't even asked her anything about this. Let me be quiet. Go ahead. It's Caregivers.
To answer Fred's question, I didn't feel by myself. I didn't feel, because he was here. I can't explain it, but he was here. And so the crazy thing that year when he started dialysis, then our son started having seizures in that same year. And so he was on the machine, and then I had the monitor for Haven on my side of the bed. So, you know, like my sleeping wasn't good because I'm watching a monitor and then the machine is going at night.
Loud.
Yeah, it was loud. But other than that, I didn't feel alone.
What about your sleep though?
My sleeping was horrible. So I'm sleeping better now with no machines and stuff.
Right. Thank you, Phyllis. Go ahead, Phil. Go ahead, Phil.
Can't hear him. I think he's on mute.
Phil. Oh, he told me not to ask any more questions because you know me, I can go ask questions all day long. So since he can't hear me, he always runs the show. I just ask questions and stuff. Phil, can you hear me?
Talking to you. Oh, Phil. Okay, my bad. Phil.
Okay. I think we wanted to go next, so that's what. All right. So. Okay, I guess we're gonna have we'll have
so we'll get the next story from Kim Hinsley. Mom, how you doing?
Now you can say what you said.
Now I look at my son up there doing this. Listen, I want to thank you guys for having us. This was nice. Did you say?
Can y'all hear us?
Yes, we can hear you. I think Phil's having a little bit of challenges, but we can hear you fine. So you can go
we
ahead
didn't want to talk to him anyhow.
I think you can go ahead and start your. Start.
Okay. First of all, I want to say, Fred, Phyllis,
can you hear me?
Lovely hearing your story. But my husband here, I'm Kim. This is Brian. Brian had a liver transplant 22 years ago. But you were talking about your demeanor, and was I nice? Was I a good patient?
I'm out of here.
No.
Can you hear me? I can hear me.
No.
Yes,
Oh my God.
Can you hear me?
Retired firefighter, paramedic, type A personality. So no, he was not a good patient. See, laughing. See, that's exactly. See, so anyway, we've been married about 26 years. I've known Brian since high school, so I know everything about this man, everything. And he was diagnosed. I'm not sure the year you were diagnosed. We weren't together when he was diagnosed because I was married, had two boys. And 89. Okay, so I knew about it. We all were praying for him, and for he was diagnosed with autoimmune hepatitis. So he's in need of a liver transplant. And I get divorced, and we start dating. And our wedding day, he's so yellow, his belly is huge, needs a paracentesis done. And I'm walking down the aisle with my boys, and I'm wondering if he's going to make it through the ceremony. So we were married like that, and it continued to get progressively worse every day. He still continued his job, hid it a little bit at the fire station. He wore bigger clothes. Listen, stay with me. He had his skinny clothes, his bigger clothes, and then his bigger clothes to hide the belly. So he was kind of running from it, hiding from it. So let's see, what else can I say about that? Many times in the hospital, many times. Also, too, with the paracentesis, it's called encephalopathy, where he doesn't know who he was or anything about where he's at right now. So we did all of that, went through all of that, lots of hospital stays, and let's see, and then what? 2.5 years later, 3 years later, we did get the call, or he was already in the hospital. He was already at UCLA. He was in there for a month before the transplant, and we knew then if he didn't get it, he wasn't coming home. So actually leaving our house with his stuff, and he was saying goodbye to the house, is what really was so hard to watch, because he would pick up an item, especially of our little girl. She was 2 at the time, and he would pick up her little bear Lucy, and he was kind of holding it. It was like saying goodbye, because I may not come home. So he waited in the hospital, and he only had a couple hours left, and a liver did become available. And but beside all of that, we were going through all of this. We also had a film crew in our house filming this wait, and we're actually going to film No Greater Love. So you're trying to help him and you know, and attend to his needs, but then also too, you have a camera that's right above you, listening to everything that you're saying to him. So we were constantly on mic. He was constantly mad. So they were hearing it all. And so my story's a little bit different, where was with a type A personality who can do everything by himself. No, you cannot. So in a nutshell, that's the bottom line of my story. But I have all day. I mean, I have stories. So feel free to ask a question if you like, but that's kind of where we're at with that.
So as far as
Thanks, Kim, for going easy on me.
okay. Well, thank you, Kim, for going easy on it. But let's ask this question. Let's start, like, you know, going back to the wedding. You know, this is your day, and you see him like that. What was your thoughts going through your mind? Because that's big.
My thought, my actual thought was, because I actually started to write a book, and I stopped because I didn't want him hurt. And so there were so many things that happened, and if I really went into detail, I didn't want to hurt his feelings in any way. My first paragraph of my book is the day of the wedding, when I'm walking down the aisle. And I say something like, in my book, as I'm walking down the aisle and I'm looking at your face, I don't even know if you're going to make it through the ceremony. And I'm actually pregnant with our daughter, Megan. And I thought, he's never going to see his child being born, his first and only. I don't even know if you're going to make it through the ceremony. So I was scared to death. But that was I think it was our saving grace that I was pregnant with her. It was like, I'm giving you your chance, please hang on, you know, just we'll be praying and having that. So that was my first thought, was, I don't even think you're going to make it through the ceremony. So yellow. And you know what? Not a lot of people knew. But big belly. Our honeymoon. Oh my God. We go on our honeymoon a couple weeks later, and I'm not feeling good because I'm nauseous at different times of this trip. We went up to Solvang and up north, and he was telling me, yeah, see what it's like to be nauseous all the time? Yeah, see? Yeah. And as I was getting a big belly, I see y'all laughing. And as I was getting bigger and bigger, he was going, yeah, see what it's like to have a big belly? Yeah, see? Yeah.
Kim, let me ask you this. You know, he's a firefighter, so firefighters are, like you said, type A. They're always taking charge and things like that. So, was it challenging for him to, listen to you and do the meds and do the things that he was supposed to do?
He didn't listen to anything. And listen. So, Phyllis, you were talking about having to do something yourself because you didn't know how to do this. Oh my gosh. We get to the transplant. We're at the hospital. They give him all the meds to take because this is your new normal. This is it. There's a whole tray of pills. He took them all he's supposed to take. The nurse leaves the room. He goes in and throws up. And he tells me, comes out of the bathroom and he goes, don't you dare tell them I just did that. I said, Brian, what if the medicine, you can't do something like that. So yes, things, stop. So those were the kind of things that happened all the time. Then there was a little bit of an issue. He had to have it was starting to get big again. And there was a lot of doctors involved in this and what's wrong and blah, blah, blah. So he was on Brian was a TPN diet, no fat. So he was given like in an IV. And when we were going through how to do it, Brian's telling me, he goes, because I was going, I don't know. And I'm like that. And Brian goes, shh, I know how to do this. So don't worry about it. And I'm going, well, I want to know. So, yeah, no, didn't listen to anything I said. I like you too.
So after the liver transplant, how was life after the liver transplant? How things go after that?
Listen, y'all. This is why we're still married, because I knew him before high school, so I knew what he was like. This was a totally different person, and I used to pray in the closet because the doctor told me there were so many things. He goes, listen, it's not about the cup that's sitting on the counter. He's not mad at that. He's mad because this is out of his control, and he can't control this anymore. So he's mad about that. So Dr. Donovan told me, walk away, just walk away from him. So I would walk in the bedroom, shut the door, walk in the closet, shut the door, and I would sit against the closet and just pray. And he was banging on the door, and he goes, and I go, I would always yell, I was told to walk away. Go. So he's not that person anymore. That was illness. That was sick. We're good.
I'm out of here.
No. Get in here.
That is really, really good. I'm so happy that 22 years with your liver transplant, and you guys look good. You guys are a beautiful couple. Thank you so much. We appreciate you guys.
Appreciate you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Yeah. Sharon, we're going to go to you now because Phil has me controlling because I think something's going on with Phil's stuff. But Sharon, let's hear you guys' story. Let's hear what's going on with you guys.
Sorry, I had to unmute there. First of all, thanks for having us. Yeah, I can hear you. Okay. So thanks for having us, and nice to meet everyone. Oh, Philip, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was saying continue. I know I'm laughing a little bit.
Okay. So I'm Kyle, and this is Shannon, and we have I guess I'm bringing the husband aspect to the show instead of the wife aspect. So Shannon is a polycystic kidney disease patient. Hasn't had her transplant, but is currently doing dialysis. So we learned about polycystic kidney disease from her mom, her grandmother. As Fred knows, the genetics pass through, and everybody has had it. So before her kidney started failing, we had learned about polycystic kidney disease when her mom went on dialysis. And so we watched her mom start peritoneal.
Yeah, sure.
She only did peritoneal dialysis. So we learned through that. And I had the best teacher that I could ever have in being a caregiver, her father. He taught me so much about, what it's like to love somebody and care for them at the same time. And he didn't know, but I was watching him and learning from him, knowing that one day we would be there as well. And when you're going through it and the kids are fine and the numbers are coming back good, you don't realize, you think that one day will never come because, oh, she's doing good, she's doing great, her kids are going to be fine. And then sadly in 2017, Shannon had a stroke. And a minor stroke. Luckily, everything was good, recovered very well, but that for some reason sent the kidneys in a downward spiral. So we also have 3 children, one of my own, 2 together. They're 17 and 10 now. But having young children, it was scary, very scary, especially with the stroke. And then we just went through the process, and it came to a time that dialysis had to start. And we talked about everything, are we going to do at home? Are we going to do, in center? And she started in center hemodialysis. So we were waking up at 6 in the morning, 3 days a week, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and I would drive her to the center. The kids would get off to school. We'd had someone take them to school. Luckily at that time they were at the same school, so my son was able to take my daughter, and I would head off to work. And her dad, after her mom passed, her dad is still today helping us, and he would pick her up and bring her home, and it was becoming too much. So we switched to the peritoneal dialysis about 1 year ago in September of this year. And just for our family, it's been much, much better, much easier to control, other than the box in the house. It's Phil can, yeah.
Takes up all my closet space.
We had to rearrange the house a little bit. And we have a system. I set up her machine every day. By the time she gets off the machine, I'm off to work myself. She cleans up the machine at the end of the day. Sometimes, some days it's left for me. I walk in the room at night and go, "Oh my God, here we go! I have to clean and set up." But we were taught, and having the kids, my son doesn't want anything to do with dialysis. Having watched his grandmother, when my mother-in-law was on dialysis, she was caring for my son. And I think he kind of throws his hands in the air of it and says, I don't even want to deal with it, knowing everything. But if mom needed a help, we know he'd be there in 1 second. And my daughter, she wants to give mom the needles now. She wants to learn how to do that. I haven't stabbed my wife with those needles.
Yes, you have. Yes, you have. It hurts.
But yeah, and when we started this, I know some of you may recognize me from being on the show before or working with Jonathan Traylor, Hope with Jonathan, and it brought me to start helping the community. So it's opened up that area as well, and we just figured there's more we can do. So we've been less active over the summer. We've had a busy summer in the kidney world that we haven't been very active. But we're, as the winter comes, we are in Canada, so it's going to start snowing soon, and we won't be able to go anywhere. So there's a lot more time in the house. So that's pretty much our story. We've been. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, wow, that's pretty amazing. What really blew me away right there was you were watching, your father-in-law take care of your mother-in-law kind of expecting that this could happen. So, what was that like? Was that a kind of, that's almost surreal? What, tell us about that.
You know, if I said that there wasn't a moment that, like, we, as caregivers and partners, we've all had that opportunity to check out. We could say, you know what, I didn't sign up for this part of it, I'm out. Never crossed my mind. I think we were brought together for a reason, and the universe or whatever religious entity you believe in has brought all of us to our partners for a reason. So I knew that in that situation for me was to educate myself, so I was prepared. I can honestly say I never, mother asked me numerous times to see her Neil entry point. I never looked at it. To the day she passed, I was afraid of it. I didn't know what it would look like. This is the first time that I've seen one. I was scared of it. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to expect. But yeah, I knew I had to learn. I had to watch. I had to absorb how he dealt with it. I know, Phyllis, you might think too, there's days that you go into the shower and you just want to scream. It's very frustrating. It weighs on you. You want to scream, you want to yell, you want to cry yourself. But when you come out of that closet or whatever, you have that smile on your face. Because when the work I do in the kidney world, I don't call it, like, the kidney world uses the term kidney warrior. We are the shield of that warrior. That's how I look at us. We are the warrior shield. We are the ones there to protect them as best as they can. And we also have to learn, because a lot of times we go to the doctor and she didn't ask the right question. She wouldn't know what's going on. I had one doctor, he's never been challenged so much ever, because I did my research. I had to ask the right question for her. And you know what? I'm going to challenge you. What about this? What about that? How can we deal with this? And we challenge that doctor. So we have to be their shield. We have to be ready for it. And there's been a couple of times that something's gone wrong, and I'm like, no, this is what's wrong. You guys are, in an emergency room, you're not looking at that. You get me a nephrologist. Get them down here. I need a nephrologist. I don't need all this petty medicine. And no, we got to deal with the problem. I'm not the doctor, but this is a problem because we've educated ourselves to help the person we're caregiving for.
I love that take charge attitude, because sometimes you have to go through the fray to get to the meat and potatoes and be like, look, this is what it's about. I have a question for Fred right here. It says, and this goes to Kyle. It says, what was the difference in being a caregiver for a stroke versus dialysis? So what was the difference from, when she had a stroke compared to, the everyday dialysis? What's the difference?
The stroke was much scarier.
Really?
In my brain. Is she going to be able to walk? Is she going to be able to talk? Is another one going to come tomorrow? Is it when, very scary. What if she can't move? What if she loses mobility? What if there's a lot more questions with that? With the dialysis, let's just do it and you're going to be okay tomorrow. You're going to be the best you can be. You're not going to be okay because this disease is still fighting you, but you're going to be the best you tomorrow, right? The stroke was and I think more uneducation. I wasn't educated, ready for a stroke. That one was a blindside. So that was very difficult. It was a lot more scary for me. I don't think I've ever told her that either. Yeah. So thanks. Get me in trouble.
I could think about the two, because like you said, with dialysis, you're kind of prepared. You're like, okay, I understand what's going on, so you can. But with the stroke, it's so unexpected that you're like just you can't stand on nothing but your faith when it comes to something like that. That's out of the blue that hits you like that. And that was a great question, Fred. Thank you so much for that. But I get what you're saying, Kyle. That was great. Thank you guys for that. And like I said, this podcast we're moving on pretty quickly. So we're touching everybody and eventually on this show we'll have everybody come on again, and so we can tell a real thorough show. But like I said, this is a caregiver show, and we're having several people talk. So right now we want to talk to Tazwell Franklin Jr. How you doing, brother?
Good. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine. Go ahead, tell us about what you
Hold
do
on
as
one
part of the
second,
caregiver.
because you're
Okay.
now I can't hear you. Hold on, let me see
Okay.
something.
Can you hear me now? I'm not muted, so just raise your finger up if you can
'Cause I
hear
was
me.
hearing you fine for a second. Hold on one second. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Thing.
Yeah, we can
It
all hear
was
you.
on.
So.
Let me see.
You might want to check your mute. I
Let
don't know.
me
Something like
do
that.
this. I think I might need to drop out and come back on because I just lost all audio.
Okay, you can do that. That's fine. We'll wait patiently.
All right, so I'll be back in 1 second.
Okay.
Commercial real quick while Tazwell comes back in.
Okay, we're back, and we're going to have Tazwell Franklin tell us about him being a caregiver. Go ahead, Tazwell.
Okay, thanks again. So everybody can hear me, right? Okay, cool. So I guess I'm coming from the son aspect of being a caregiver. My father in January of 2021 was diagnosed with non-regenerative hyperplasia of the liver,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
as well as with stage 3 chronic kidney disease. So when we first started out in January, it just seemed like there were a whole lot of things going on that we weren't necessarily aware of how to handle it. So when we initially went to the local hospital, he was diagnosed with, they said he had cirrhosis, and the kidney disease wasn't really even mentioned. Like, we were told to, no more than 2 grams of sodium, no more than 2 grams of potassium in his diet. Like, we were told to change his diet, but we weren't really told the aspects as to why. And so after a really bad episode of him waking up just not being himself, there was blood in the bed when he woke up one morning. So we went to the hospital, and at that time he had an appointment to see a kidney specialist up at Cleveland Clinic. So because he was in the hospital here, and he already had that appointment scheduled, we were able to get him to Cleveland Clinic, where we were informed that, he wasn't suffering from cirrhosis. He actually had abnormal vascular connections in his liver, as well as portal hypertension, and the non-regenerative hyperplasia, in addition to the stage 3 chronic kidney disease. And so at that point, once we were able to get a thorough diagnosis of what was going on, we could take the steps necessary in order to restore the man that I grew up with to his former self. And so we've been working with Tafaro for almost a good 10 weeks now. And the change from where he started to, the change from where he was at a year ago to where he's at now is absolutely phenomenal. I don't know if you can hear, but I'm pretty sure he's outside cutting the grass again. And the last time that he cut grass, because it's something that he enjoys doing, it was 2020. So like I said, with Tafaro and just the suggestions that he made, the things that we had to educate ourselves on, as far as making sure he was getting the right amount of water, how many milligrams of sodium is like in a teaspoon of salt, how many milligrams of sodium are in the things that he enjoys eating, and measuring those things out, from my mother just keeping an eye on him, a very keen eye, saying, he doesn't look right. Something's not up to snuff. From my sister going out and making sure he gets his buying like 8 to 10 packs of the little 8-ounce bottles of water, so he always has those things on hand and handy. It's really been a team and a family effort, and he's responded real well to it. I mean, I think he's the type of person that doesn't really like to ask for help or to let people know what it is that he's going through. But over the past year, like even now when because he also deals with stage 2, or not stage 2, but type 2 diabetes. So even now, like I got up this morning and Dad, how you doing? Well, my blood sugar was low. It was 65 this morning, so I got up and I had some cereal and I had some juice, and I'm checking it now and it's 1:30. So like I don't think he ever would have done like things of that nature a couple of years ago. And I think that my experiences having to deal with type 1 diabetes gave me a little bit, not necessarily the perfect insight of what he was going through, but it really did help me to kind of gauge what it was that some of the things that he needed in his diet, and how to measure those things, like how much sodium, how much potassium, how much phosphorus is he taking in with each meal. And so it really, like when I was growing up, I absolutely hated it. Like I hated being a type 1 diabetic. Like it was like almost the worst experience ever. Like I couldn't stand it. But now that I'm older and I see the experience that it gave me, I'm like, if this can help me help him, that's cool. I'll deal with that. Like I don't have any problem with it now at all, because it's helping me make sure that my father is living his best possible life and being his best possible self.
Right. That's really awesome, man. One thing I want to say is, with your father, one thing about you is, let me say something. His father, Tazwell Senior, is
Fred and Phyllis. Sons usually see their fathers as invincible. Did you see your father as vulnerable once kidney disease came into your life? Yeah, absolutely. Because my father, for as long as I can remember, I've never seen him sick, like ever. As a matter of fact, he worked at the local hospital here for, I want to say, close to 4 years, and like he had perfect attendance. So it was to see him last year, like multiple visits to the hospital with IVs and losing weight and a myriad of other things that he was going through. It was disconcerting, to say the least. Because there would be times where I would go up to the hospital and stay there the whole day, and would come home and just be wiped, like drained, because it's the seeing somebody that you love, respect, and care for, just seeing them not themselves, and in addition to that, just trying to stay on top of all of the doctors, because you have doctors coming in and out at all times during the day, and some of them are as thorough as they can be with the information that they're giving you. Some of them aren't as thorough with the information that you're giving them. So it's jotting down everything that they're saying, and then going home and doing that self research, seeing as to trying to find out the reasons why. For instance, my father's hemoglobin is so low. Like, why is it? If the normal range is 10 to 12, like why is his at a 6? Like, what's going on, and trying to figure out all of that's going on. on. It's just, it's disconcerting. It's frustrating. It's really a lot to deal with. But for the people that we love and care about, I think all of us here can agree. Like, we will spare. There are no stone will be left unturned. There's nothing that we wouldn't do in order to make sure that that person that we care about is doing their best and living their best. So, like, yeah, that's kind of our story in a nutshell. Like, I thought he was downstairs asleep. He fooled me. He must have just got up and decided to start cutting grass again. But like, yeah, that's our story in a nutshell. I think
That's
there's
awesome.
still a lot that we need to be prepared for. And like, that's kind of what I do now. I try to think about every possible option and be prepared just in case every possible anything that I'm thinking about might pop up. So, like, yeah, we're just taking it day by day. He's been better now than I've seen him over the past year. Like, he's so good now. Like, I actually felt comfortable like going out of town last weekend and taking a couple of days just to visit some friends, because like anytime I had the idea of going, I was like, no, I don't think something would happen, right? Like, maybe no, I can't, like, not right now. But like, yeah, last weekend was the first time, like, I double checked with, like, Dad, are you okay? Is it cool if I go like, yeah, it's cool. I'll be all right. You straight? Like, go ahead, get out of here. So
Right,
yeah,
Franklin. Let me say this, Franklin.
he's back to being fantastic.
Right, Tazwell, let me say this. I just want to tell everybody, his dad is 85 years old and he's out there cutting the grass. So that's pretty amazing. Once I start working with him, we've seen the evolution of him. He started working with kidney care coaches, I'll say. We started seeing the evolution of him just getting better and better. And we looked at the labs and we were like, okay, we got to get better. And he just started getting better immediately.
I lost the audio again. I don't know what's going on with my
It's no problem. No problem. We're gonna give these last minutes to Phil. Phil wants to say something to everybody on here. So go ahead, Phil. Take it away. Phil? Our goal was to keep this in an hour, and I just want to say thank you to everybody. I guess Phil can't hear us, so we really, really appreciate everybody coming on.
My
Go ahead, Phil. Can you hear?
last question is for uh, all the caregivers, which is, what was the toughest time for you mentally and emotionally? You take a few minutes. Can you hear me?
You might have to write your question in there because you're going in and out.
Can you hear me?
No.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you slightly. Yes, yeah, that's the question. Cal wrote the question and says, what is the toughest time?
You said you can hear me?
Yes, Kyle wrote the question.
Everyone
Kyle,
said
can you go ahead
you
and
can
that
hear
question?
me. Yes.
We can hear you slightly. It's going in and out. Slightly. We can hear you a little bit, then it goes in and out.
So sorry, what I heard from Philip was question for the caregivers. What is the toughest time you've had emotionally and mentally in caregiving? That's what I heard. Sorry.
Right. That was the question. Go
If
ahead.
someone wants to go.
You could go, Kyle. You go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I process it differently. Each day is different. I mean, but when something went astray and Shannon's in the hospital, then for me, can you hear me now or am I frozen? All of you are frozen.
No, you.
Yeah, they're frozen. Good. Okay. So when I've been at the hospital or Shannon's been in the hospital, that's probably the scary time, the most emotional time. But on a day-to-day, I don't feel emotionally strung by what's going on. It does. I mean, financially, we've had some trouble too because Shannon had to stop working. So that was a financial burden. I mean, I hope this could be a conversation for a way different time, but at least here, like her stroke cost me $20 in gas and parking because we don't pay for healthcare here. It's already paid in our tax. So we don't have that, the insurance or the medical that possibly some of you have. We don't, so it's been tough and there are days but I still annoy her and I can't hear anybody.
Yeah, can't hear you, Cook.
Philip, can you chime in on that question?
Yes, you do.
Can't hear you.
Yes, for the.
Oh, now
Can you hear me?
you guys.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, for
Yeah, we can hear you.
I think the toughest time, the toughest time for me was when he got his transplant, and that was a mental thing too. I actually broke down in the waiting room, and I remember our pastor had called and she talked to me, and so that was my toughest or the mental moment that I had was when he was in surgery for the transplant. Yeah. And the toughest was another tough time was when he first started. I remember we were talking about this, how he wouldn't drain at times because he was on the peritoneal. And there were times that he wouldn't drain at first. And so we would have to go to the hospital and they would flush his line and just, them getting everything to where it started to work for him. That was tough in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember those days. I did 6.5 years of peritoneal and I did 5.5 years of hemo. So I clearly understand about the draining and things like that. Kim, this question goes out to you right now. What was your toughest time mentally?
Well, I thought about it, and I think at the end, I felt like I was doing intensive care nursing because I was helping him in the bathroom. At what point do I call the doctor? That played a lot in my head because we were 2 hours from the hospital from UCLA. So when do I go? Okay, now you're doing something different. What does this mean? Oh, you're septic. What does that mean? So it was a lot of that in the unknown. And I'm sorry, I know we're all supposed to be patient, but we don't know the outcome of this story. And though I think that plays such a mental thing with me, that is a call going to come today? And then are you wishing for someone to die? No, I'm not. It's a mental thing to have to wait like that. And I don't know, I think that really played with me, that we'd be watching the news and he'd go, God, we're watching the news. Is an accident going to happen? And is that what's going to happen? Is that when they're going to call me? He goes, I don't even like looking at that. This is a lot to take in. A lot of fingers to this. It isn't just you get a transplant. Someone has passed. So I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what was. And then the other thing, I felt so bad for you. You were so sick, and I can't make this better. And I am a mom, Philip, and I want to make everybody better, and I can't. And that's what hurts a lot. I can't help this one. So.
Right, and that's big right there, because again, we always want to help our loved ones, and it's like out of your hands. Usually when you see if the kid falls down, he got a scratch, you wash it off and you can control that. But when it's something so drastic like this, a transplant, having a failure in a lung, in an organ and things like that, it's out of your hands, and you see your loved one, suffering from this challenge right there, can be dramatic. And I never forget, like Tazwell said earlier, you could go to the hospital, and sitting in the hospital feels like you worked out 3 times in one day, because you're so exhausted, and it's the exhaustion that you have because you're so concerned about your loved one, and that's the challenge. Man, it's draining to the max. Tazwell, the question right here is what Phil said. What's been your toughest time emotionally and mentally dealing with your dad? And I just want to say hats off to you. That's why we had you on here, because when me working with your father, you've been one of the best caregivers I've ever witnessed. When I asked for your dad's labs, when I asked for everything, it was right there. And when I told your dad about any type of supplements and things like that, you got them, and your dad was able to get them. And that's why, my hats are off to you. But go ahead and ask the question.
Sure. And thank you, Safaro, as well. I really can't say that enough. You've really been a huge help. I think the worst time, or the toughest time, was, and this kind of ties into when my dad first started to experience all of these health issues. So when he initially went into the hospital, they had diagnosed him with cirrhosis. They said that there was might have been a blood clot in addition to the portal hypertension that might have been causing the ascites in his stomach because of the liver issues. So they had put him on Eliquis. So Eliquis is a blood thinner, and he was on that blood thinner until we went to Cleveland Clinic. So fast forward a couple of months after that, he was getting ready to go to bed, and I was talking to my mother, and she says, go in the bathroom and check on your father because something is wrong. And I went to the bathroom, and he was standing in the bathroom. He was looking in the mirror, but he was drooling like uncontrollably. Like it was almost like he didn't have control of it. And I immediately thought that he was having a stroke. So I grabbed the phone, I called 911. Ambulance came, took him to the hospital. I followed them to the hospital. And in the emergency room, you know, they weren't really sure what was going on. One of the emergency room doctors that I spoke to was saying that, you know, it was a partial stroke. Another ER doc came in and said it was a seizure. Like I couldn't make heads or tails of either one. Like all I know is I'm in the emergency room and I'm looking at my dad, and you know, he's non-responsive. He's just kind of shaking and making noises, but you know, he's not, you know, he's not saying anything. I don't think he's like aware or cognizant of what's going on around him. And that was the day that almost broke me, because I had to go home and, you know, explain to my mom what was going on and explain to my sister. And then my sister, who is, for all intents and purposes, a daddy's girl, she went to the hospital and then she came back, and to see her reaction, you know, she just broke down into tears, and then my mother broke into tears, and then I broke into tears. It was a wheat fest, like all around. And that was the time when, you know, I think we were all just feeling like at our lowest, because we had absolutely no idea. The only good thing that came from that experience from my end was there was a nurse. No, it was actually an ER doc who came in and was asking, you know, if my father was on any blood thinners. And I told him no, his blood thinners had been discontinued a few months prior to this experience. And he was saying like, yeah, it's good that, you know, the blood thinner was discontinued, because if he was still on them, then that episode that he was experiencing could have been worse. So yeah, that was the only thing that came from that day. That I kind of sort of had a little bit of a sigh of relief from, just knowing that it wasn't as bad as it could have been, because we were able to get the proper diagnosis and to do things that would help him as opposed to harm him.
That's awesome. Phil, go ahead and wrap up. Okay. So again, everybody, we thank you so much tonight. Thank you for your
We appreciate
participation.
You. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I think we can hear him a little bit, then all of a sudden he goes out. We can hear, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Then he goes out. So we're just going to wrap up. But again, thank you all again for your participation.
Must be lagging really bad. Okay. So real quick, again, just want you heard different sides of the story from different individuals.
Again, we're just gonna wrap it up again. Like I said, thank you again. Just repeat what Phil said. We heard 4 great, wonderful stories, not in big detail, but we thank you so much for this Caregivers panel. Again, we would love to have you guys once again on the show, probably individually, so you can tell your stories in more in depth. Again, we really appreciate you on this Sunday evening.